Chapter 13. When Lycell drove his pickup to the gate and it opened, he jumped out and trekked to the mailbox to get the Daily Mail. He didn't expect to open a package and see his son's finger in it. He stood looking in a daze, his eyes wandering up the road through the trees and back where he stood, considering what was in front of him, Thorn's finger. His mouth opened, tilting his head to the side, and wondering if this was some kind of joke. It had a sticky tag on the box. The kind you placed on a child's present. It said, Thorn's finger. Lycell appeared to have been standing there for an hour, but it was only a minute really. He rushed into his Ford truck, put it in gear, and gunned the motor, sending him speeding back to the house. Lost for words and not knowing what to make of this, he knew the finger like he knew all his son's fingers and toes. He had marveled at them when they were born. He played with them to make them laugh when they were pups, and he watched them when they could walk and run. Then when they got thorns in their little paws and would cry and didn't want to walk, he would kiss their little finger or toes and they would smile up at him. Only one of his sons refused to walk for almost 6 months when a small thorn had entered his foot, and Lycell had the devil of a job trying to get it out, and because of that he called him Thorn. It was Thorn's finger all right. Lycell's first thought was what had Tracker gotten him into, and his second thought was Adrian. How could she be away, enjoying herself in Wilder's arms, when her son was in trouble? He came to the conclusion that she couldn't know, because he wouldn't tell her. When Lycell reached the ranch and walked in a circle for an hour, not knowing what he should do, he called Damon and told him to come back as soon as possible. Damon had been headed for the cabin, but hadn't got far out of Samseville when he got that call. Damon made a turn, screeching tires and all. It was something in Lycell's voice that let him know it was urgent. He walked into the house, calling out to his father. The cook and nurses came out, and then went back to what they were doing. Damon had never seen his father in shock, never heard the panic in his voice before, until now, but then Lycell had never had mature sons before. Damon had sat, listened, and watched the troubles Wilder had with Hunter and Devon. But nothing like this, he thought. It must be far worse because of Lycell's reaction. Rushing into the library, Damon said, "What is it, Father?" "You didn't sound like yourself, so I hurried back here." Lycell showed the note to Damon, and then the box containing Thorn's finger. Lycell clutched the note in his hand and the box in the other. He held them out for Damon to see, but not take. It was as if Lycell couldn't move or talk. He glanced down at the note held tightly in his fist. Damon took the box from him and stared at Lycell. Finally Lycell read the note out loud. "We have your son, Thorn. If you want to see him alive, come to Flagstaff with $500,000. Lycell didn't read the rest out loud. "When you get here, call this number," the note said, "and I'll tell you where to drop the money. I'm not going to waste time telling you not to call anyone. If you don't call me in 2 days, then I will send you a toe and more fingers," the note said. "After that, if the money isn't delivered, you can pick up the whole carcass." Damon glanced up at Lycell, and Lycell said to him, "I know that area in Flagstaff. There are forests where Thorn can hide out if he can get to it. But he has a woman with him, Father. It's Tracker's woman. She's with him now. I knew Tracker would do something like this. I have lost one son, and now I'm in jeopardy of losing another, for good. Father, I'll take care of everything. Tracker and I will find Thorn. You need to stay here and watch over the ranch. We still have threats from the lion shifter and the Alaskan pack. You never know when they will strike. Hunter is coming home soon, and Devon is there in case you need him." He had been the one who acted without much thought, but he knew the truth when he heard it, and Damon made sense. "Mother will be back soon, and I promise you we will have Thorn back before then." Reluctantly, Lycell gave in. He wanted Adrian. He needed to talk to her. When it came to her boys, she listened to Lycell as he complained, and she was there to remind him that they were just like him, even if he didn't want to admit it. Lycell liked talking to her, and felt she was as much his as she was Wilder's or Drayton's. He felt that way because of his 6 sons, and now Thorn was in trouble, and he missed Adrian. All Lycell knew was that Thorn's troubles involved men and that human female, and knowing what he knew about men and women, it was as deep as it could get. He knew Tracker's disposition, and it was a cross between his hot head and Wilder's cool, calculating loner behavior. But Thorn was sensitive to all things around him. He had a kindness buried inside him that Lycell thought would get him in trouble. He had been warned about playing with bear cubs, but had disregarded Lycell's instructions to leave them alone, and when the mama bear found him, she was ready to tear him apart. But when Damon spotted Thorn, he hurried to Lycell to tell on Thorn. Lycell arrived in time, attacked the bear from behind, diverting his attention from Thorn and killing her. Thorn had remained upset for days because of the bear and her cubs, but finally he got over it. "You're too sensitive to live," Lycell said coldly to Thorn. "If you don't find a way to set that easy nature aside, you won't survive to become a yearling." It was the words of his father Thorn heard in the darkness and in his thoughts when his mind cleared. For years Thorn continued to blame himself, long after for the death of the orphaned cubs. He was the kind of werewolf that saw all creatures as good and didn't want to harm them. The good that lived inside of him he had inherited from his mother. That was until he came into contact with the voice, and now he would become his father. Thorn knew now it was kill or be killed. He had learned that lesson early. When he had crushed the man's throat with his bare hands and torn his head off, he knew he had come into his own as a fierce werewolf. He didn't care about anything anymore, except finding Zoey. The thirst of the kill had consumed him and changed him. He didn't need anything, not food nor water. All he wanted to know was where Zoey was and how he could get to her. Leaping up the stairs 2 at a time behind the 2 men, he reached the door, and with one hard kick from his now powerful legs, the door fell with a boom, and he stepped into the light for the first time in weeks. His eyes burned. He reached for the light switch and felt it to his right, then turned the lights off. The 2 men, feeling afraid of their own shadows, fired their guns where they thought he stood. The only light was from the television. One of them had a bright idea to turn out the only light they would have to find Thorn, thinking it was to their advantage to have all the lights off, so one crouched and pulled the plug. That was one of the worst decisions of their lives. It was one of many bad decisions they had made that night. The first was the decision to help the voice take Thorn to the cellar after he had kidnapped him and held him for ransom. The second was for them to sit there as the voice tortured and fucked Zoey, without them saying anything. They could have done something. They saw that this was wrong, yet they had sat in silence. And the third was to agree to let Thorn die, and the final decision was to go into that cellar. Thorn had no thoughts of killing anyone, he just wanted to get away and take Zoey with him, but the realization of what the voice had done to Zoey in those never-ending weeks, he knew someone would pay a price, and it would be the voice and his friends, and it would be tonight or tomorrow. Standing next to the fridge, he inched himself around when he heard them whisper. One was trying to get the other to look for him. They stood a moment discussing it, until they saw headlights coming up the gravel road to the house. Because the shutters were open, the light from the car was like a spotlight focused on the 2 who huddled now like cowards in the corner, afraid of their shadows. Thorn leaned forward, but he heard them before he saw them. They turned to go to the door to warn the voice to turn off the lights, and that was the last mistake they made. Thorn managed to shift when his strength returned, because he wasn't taking any poison into his system. In a second he became a fierce, hungry white wolf. He leapt on both at the same time, and ripped one across the chest, and the other he went for the jugular. He chewed at one's throat and spat it on the floor, then looked down at his kill. He had renewed strength. When he glanced up, the car had turned off the lights. He wasn't sure if the voice had seen him, but Thorn saw him. Thorn snarled and then howled. It was loud and strong. The voice panicked and jumped out of the car, dragging Zoey with one hand and a gun clutched in the other. The voice rushed to the back of the house. I have your woman. If you want her in one piece, come out of the house. Thorn didn't believe that this man would give her up. He would kill her before he would hand her over. Thorn didn't want Zoey to have any more pain than necessary. He didn't know what to do. Are you still there? I'm here. How much do you want that woman? Thorn didn't want to answer. He would die for her, but he didn't want to say anything for fear the voice might detect his weakness in his words. Thorn let him talk, and as the voice talked, Thorn inched outside against the wall of the house. He would sneak up on him, like he had done his prey. He would exert patience, and then he would spring on him. How did you get out? Still Thorn wouldn't answer. I know. That bitch convinced me to tie you up with a rope. I should have known better than to trust a woman. Suddenly, Thorn heard Zoey scream. If she screams more and you hurt her again, I promise you I will rip your heart out as you look into my eyes, and I will watch the life bleed out of you. You and who else? You don't have a gun. It's just a matter of time before I hunt you down, and then what are you going to do? I think you have forgotten one thing. Let me educate you. I am the hunter, and you are my prey. Thorn heard a loud laugh, and he began to move in the voice's direction. He took his time. He let him get comfortable with his arrogance, and with what he thought could protect him from anything. Just carrying a gun gave the voice confidence that he could do and take what he wanted, and he had done just that, but it wasn't over. He hadn't killed Thorn yet. Where are my friends? Thorn heard his voice and moved closer to him. As the voice tried to move away from Thorn, keeping Thorn talking was the strategy he thought of. As long as the voice could hear Thorn, he could shoot in that direction. What he hadn't planned for was that Thorn knew his tricks. Thorn may have been a werewolf yearling, but he was seasoned. Lycell had made sure all his boys knew how to survive. He had dropped them all in perilous situations. Thorn had been hunted by a bear, but Lycell didn't tell him that he was watching over him. He wanted to know what he would do in a situation like that. The only thing Thorn wasn't prepared for was to fall in love. His love for Zoey would hinder him, and he knew it. But what could he do? He was in love, and he would die for Zoey. Your friends are where you will be in the next minute, Thorn answered. His voice threatening. The voice turned and fired a shot behind him. He didn't know Thorn could throw his voice and imitate different animals. If you want to see Zoey again, leave us, the voice said. You've done a lot of damage. You've killed my friends. The woman doesn't want to be with you. She wants to be with me, don't you, Zoey? He held her with one hand and the gun with the other. When he dropped Zoey's hand to concentrate on Thorn, Zoey inched away from him. The voice saw what Zoey was attempting and rushed to her and grabbed her arm. You're not going anywhere, bitch, the voice called out. Zoey bit his hand and a shot rang out. The voice looked startled and confused, but when he turned around, Thorn had shifted. Thorn stood in front of him on all fours, a 6 feet fierce, snarling and growling, teeth gnashing large white wolf, his eyes never leaving his prey. When the voice realized what and who Thorn was, it was too late. He stood terrified, his eyes wide with a startled expression covering his face. He watched the large beast, unable to move or shoot his gun. It might have been because he didn't believe his eyes. He wanted to run, but his feet appeared to be frozen in place, like he had been put into a barrel of cement and thrown into an ocean. With a shaky hand he raised the gun, and before he could get it higher, Thorn leapt on him. The voice got off one shot. It grazed Thorn's left shoulder. Leaning over the voice, pinning him to the ground, Thorn looked him in the eyes. The voice had seen those eyes before. Thorn lifted his head and let out a chilling sound. When he lowered his muzzle, he growled, then ripped the face off of a screaming man begging for his life. The blood from the wound was terminal. Nothing could save the voice. Thorn stood glancing at him, too long enjoying the pleasure of the kill. He had forgotten about Zoey. Then, when he realized that he wasn't that wolf but Thorn, he shifted back to his original form. Looking around for Zoey, he spotted her lying on her back. She wasn't moving. Rushing to her, his heart beating quickly, he leaned over her. "Don't die. I just found you. I need you. I love you." He picked her up in his arms and let out a loud howl. It was long followed by a whine. He rocked her in his arms and tried to revive her, but she lay there like a rag doll with blood oozing slowly from her side. He stayed there howling, moaning and rocking Zoey in his arms, not knowing what to do to save her and fearing she was gone. Looking up the cement road, Thorn saw lights. He just sat there. Nothing was going to make him leave Zoey. As the car came close, he stared blankly into the lights. The lights blinded him. Here he was, a naked man sitting with a dead girl in a house full of dead men. He didn't have the strength to do anything. He wasn't going to leave Zoey. He didn't care what happened to him if she died. The car stopped. The doors opened to the Ford truck, and Damon emerged from the driver's side, and Sadia and Tracker came out on the passenger side. "Thorn." He didn't look up. Sadia moved to him, and Thorn made a growl at her. "It's me, Sadia." Her voice was soft and calm. She stood looking down at him with Zoey cradled in his arms. "Thorn." "Let Sadia help Zoey," Tracker said. Thorn looked up and recognized Tracker, and he released Zoey and laid her down on the leaves that had fallen. Sadia checked her pulse. When Thorn stood, Tracker said, "Let me get you some clothes." He took a dazed Thorn by the hand and led him to the truck. He turned to see Damon kneeling with Sadia. "Get my bag, Damon, she has a pulse," Sadia said, looking to Damon. "Don't tell me you have the power to heal?" "No, I don't, and that's just silly. But I was going to become a doctor like my father. That stupid brother of yours doesn't know what he's done by throwing me away. Go get my bag now." "I'll take you if he doesn't want you," Damon admitted before turning and heading for the truck. Sadia glanced up at him, thinking it was just a joke. "You're not my type. You've wasted enough time, the bag is in my knapsack." Damon smiled, then ran to the truck, found the bag, and got it back to her. He stood and opened it, and handed it to Sadia. She pulled out a needle and a bottle, and gave Zoey a shot. "Come here, Thorn. You need a shot too. It will help until we get you home." Thorn buttoned the last button on his shirt with Tracker's help. "No. I'll wait until Robert can take care of my wound. It's nothing. We have a 12-hour drive, maybe more." "Stop being such a big baby," Sadia said, not knowing Thorn didn't like needles or medicine. Maybe he'd had enough of needles and medicine in the basement. "Go ahead, Thorn, do as Sadia says." "We have to leave this place and soon," Tracker said, glancing over his shoulder at Damon, then saying to him, "I heard what you said to Sadia. She's mine." "Okay, Tracker, but you said—" "Don't worry about what I said. I'm saying now she's mine." He turned to see Thorn picking up Zoey. Zoey was knocked out with whatever Sadia gave her. "She will be all right if we get that bullet out of her soon. We need to get back to Samseville quick." "I hope she survives the ride," Sadia whispered to Tracker. "Can you do it? Take the bullet out?" Tracker said. "Not without killing her, and she may die anyway," Sadia said to Tracker. Damon had the motor on and ready to leave. "Let's go," Damon said. Sadia ran to the truck to get in front with him, and Tracker opened the door to the back. He glanced at Damon and then Sadia. Sit near Zoe and Thorn, Tracker said. Sadia glanced up at Tracker and said, What's this? You're riding in the back. I don't take orders from you. You are today, Tracker said, lifting her up into the truck as if she was a baby. Now let's get out of here, Damon said.